31 implemented. Thanks to the Saintess's purification, some of the miasma had disappeared, but the area still had a subtle heaviness and humidity in the air, an environment that no one besides battle-hardened knights or mages with strong magical resistance could endure. That was why it was nothing short of eerie to see Saikaira, who couldn't even withstand ordinary miasma, standing there with a smile on his face. Since the civil officials can't come, I figured we'd be short on people. If the Third Night Order will help us, then we'll be fine now, right, Is-san? Is-san. The members of the Third Night Order frowned at how unnaturally cheerful the Otherworlder. Apparently someone their commander was taking a particular interest in and fussing over, was speaking to them. The Second Night Order even went so far as to keep their distance. Wait a minute, no one told me anything. What are you planning to make us do, you scoundrel? Surprisingly, the objection came from the Court Magic Bureau. The one raising his voice was Director Zoltarn, a noble-born future metabolic case, but he seemed to have made it here safely. Huh, that's strange. I told Deputy Director Is-san about it the day after I met him at the banquet, though. A lie. Strictly speaking, Aresh got in the way and I couldn't talk to him then, so I spoke to him the day before yesterday, but as long as the "I told you in advance" part was true, that was all that mattered. Is that true, Ist? Was it? I forget. And if the Court Magic Bureau knew this kind of behavior was normal for Ist, then they had no choice but to accept it, because Ist held a rank. Well, why not? This job can only be handled by members of the Court Magic Bureau, who are gifted in magical power and well-versed in magical theory. So we'll be providing special compensation as well. The moment they heard that, it felt like the mage's eyes gleamed. They must be desperate for research funds on a daily basis. And you, a mere deputy administrative officer of accounting, think you can decide that? No need to worry. I have signatures here from the accounting department's administrator and the chancellor. This part was genuine, so I handed it over to Zoltarn without making a show of it. GHH indeed. That should settle the mages. I asked the eager-to-run things Zoltarn to take command, and had Ist select those with strong resistance to miasma. Now then, as for the Third Night Order. And that's when someone interrupted again. When I turned around, Yua, still a bit pale, was glaring at me, supported by the silver-haired prince. What gives you the right to do whatever you like without permission? I'd been hoping they'd leave quickly to tend to Yua, but apparently things weren't going to go that smoothly. From the Chancellor. I also have a letter stating the matter is entrusted to me. I am the commander of this purification expedition. Yes, that's why the command of the purification expedition is already in your Highness's hands. What I've been entrusted with is a separate matter. What did you say? So, wouldn't it be best for your Highness to take the Saintess to a place where she can rest in peace as soon as possible? I thought that would move Julius, given his Saintess first mindset. But this time Yua shook her head. I want to stay with Kondo-san too. Yua? Yua looked at Saikaira with pleading eyes, and Saikaira narrowed his own. Only now had she realized the danger of this world, and the precariousness of her position, perhaps. But having her interfere with work would be a problem, and there was nothing Saikaira could do for her here anyway. The Saintess looks extremely fatigued, so please return to the town we were in this morning and rest. So, what exactly are you planning to make them do? Just when it seemed Yua, Julius, and the Second Night Order had finally left, Julius returned a short while later with 2 of his guard knights. I told you I'm the commander. The miasma crisis is our nation's most urgent problem. There's no way I can leave it to some otherworlder who knows nothing. As a prince of this country, he probably did feel strongly about dealing with the miasma. Still, that didn't change the fact that an otherworlder had been abducted by a royal-led summoning. Then, your Highness and your guards, please watch from a short distance. Saikaira. What should the knights do? With Julius finally quiet, we could begin. Aresh asked, and while avoiding the knights' faces that clearly said, "Are we really doing this too?" Saikaira issued instructions. Yes. Please guard the mages and record the barrier they apply. Barrier? What are you protecting? We're protecting this country. Saikaira answered as if it were nothing, and the mages and knights clearly showed contempt in their eyes. Don't be ridiculous. Barrier magic is an advanced composite spell with few users. You must have thought to protect the nation from miasma, but no matter how many mages you have, it won't be enough to cover the entire country with a barrier. Julius sighed as though Saikaira were utterly ignorant. In fact, only 8 mages present could use barrier magic. But to Saikaira, That was plenty. Then you should think of it the other way around. He positioned the 8 mages around the tree, had Aresh order the knights to guard them and measure and record the distance to the miasma core, the great tree. Ist and other mages with strong miasma resistance and keen detection moved even further inward to sense and record. What the barrier would protect was the tree itself, the source emitting the miasma. Theta, 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 theta. Since we already know the core that's producing the miasma, it's just a change in perspective. Seal the thing itself. With documents in hand recording the miasma density inside a barrier. Set about 3 meters around the tree, Saikaira explained to Aresh, who, as always, sat on someone else's bed, in the inn-room they had left that morning. Even if you say that, with miasma saturating the area, the barrier would need considerable strength, and it isn't a spell that lasts forever. Saikaira knew that from experience. Aresh applied barrier, to him practically as part of daily life now. So they would plant vegetation around the tree, station 1 knight and 1 mage in the town, and have them record how long it took for the barrier to weaken. Ultimately, after Shiraishi-san completes the purification, we'll apply the barrier, station permanent watchers in that forest, and have them periodically layer the barrier to prevent the miasma from leaking out. Of course, in the meantime they should also advance research aimed at eliminating whatever served as the miasma core. Until you said it, that never even occurred to me. Aresh looked strangely subdued, but Saikaira had no intention of blaming him. This applied to everyone in the country. Because you had a saintess. When there's an easy solution, very few people bother thinking up plans that take time and effort. It's a kind of suspended thinking. Though, apparently, some people with strong intellectual curiosity were exceptions. Saikaira gave a wry smile, imagining a bright-haired, sleepy-eyed mage and a rose-brown, handsome middle-aged man. Well, with this, maybe you won't have to go searching for a saintess and summoning someone from another world anymore. Saikaira smiled at Aresh, whose beautiful face carried an awkward shade of emotion. In other words, clean up your own mess. Even so, Saikaira understood this scheme wouldn't be accepted by everyone. The saintess's existence gave the populace hope and functioned as a powerful trump card for the nation. As Zoltarn had loudly proclaimed, the fact that they'd carried out the saintess summoning ritual likely served as a strong deterrent to neighboring countries as well. To convince those above, especially the king, that the saintess was no longer necessary, he would need to do one more job. Just as Saikaira turned back to the desk to continue working, his arm was pulled from behind, and he sank onto the bed. Aresh-sama, I still have work left. Later. You stayed near the source of the miasma for a long time today. We need to reapply the barrier. In truth, even the hardened local knights with miasma resistance were feeling unwell, and the only reason Saikaira, the weakest person in this world, had been able to look fine was Aresh's barrier. And it was thanks to that he'd even been able to come up with this plan, so he couldn't possibly thank Aresh enough. On top of that, this plan still required 3 more purification expeditions, and Saikaira would likely be dragged along again. He'd noticed the change in Aresh's eyes, but now wasn't the time. Aresh-sama, is that really necessary? After applying the barrier magic, Aresh immediately leaned over Saikaira, showering kisses on his eyes, ears, neck, and lips as he undressed him and pressed their skin together. Saikaira tried to at least undress himself, thinking he shouldn't just be on the receiving end. But Aresh stopped him and undressed him instead. It's more embarrassing to be undressed. Aresh's large hand slid up from Saikaira's inner thigh, and he couldn't help letting out a voice. It's necessary. A lie. What Saikaira needed was to touch Aresh and, depending on the situation, take Aresh's bodily fluids into himself. Saikaira's own pleasure, or any act of release, wasn't part of the requirement. No, you don't, right? Hey, Aresh-sama, don't touch there, Pilia. With the commander's overwhelming strength that treated Saikaira's feeble resistance as if it didn't exist, Aresh's hand began to invade from below, into his underwear. By mouth. I'll do it by mouth. Bang! Konda, you in there? Saikaira's desperate proposal was crushed beneath the sound of the door flying open and Ist's bright voice.